And today we're going to be talking about a very, very close topic to our hearts that isn't necessarily gaming related, but is very, very important to the gaming community, which is net neutrality.
Yup. Well, that didn't go too well.
Yeah, but at least we've shaved. Hey everyone, welcome to GameGorgon. My name's Indigo.
And I'm Krug.
And today we're going to be talking about Net Neutrality 2, Electric Boogaloo.
You lost your edge.
You're the loser, punk. Try me.
So as you've seen from the intro, we've talked about net neutrality before. If you don't know what net neutrality is yet, or if you want a refresher, or if you just want to see what we were talking about previously, and this is before the vote actually happened, is when this was recorded, you can check the description. There will be a link to the video down there, where Indigo's been pointing for a minute and a half. We're bringing up net neutrality again because Washington State, and actually a bunch of other states, but we're going to focus on Washington, has some balls. They're standing up to the FCC and they're passing their own net neutrality law and forcing ISPs to behave the way that they should be being forced to behave by the federal government. And we love it. It's a well-written law. It has a bunch of like very tight controls. It has a method of enforcement. And
Wait. A way to enforce laws and not just like...
Not empty, just like rules that have absolutely no repercussions whatsoever. Amazing.
So dumb!
The first part of the law reads like something we're used to. It's basically saying the ISPs have to disclose what they're doing with information that travels over their network as far as like bandwidth shaping and like all that technical back-end stuff is concerned. That is something that already exists, but it's just kind of codifying that and sort of preventing it from changing on a federal level, right? So if they take that law away on a federal level, then it's still going to exist for Washington because it's at their state level.
It also reads very dry and very boring.
Yep, familiar, dry, and boring, just like Indigo. And then we get to the meat and potatoes of the law, the part of the law that's actually doing good work now. And this part is pretty broad and pretty awesome. I'm just gonna read it to you. The law states that ISPs may not block lawful content, applications, services, or non-harmful devices subject to reasonable network management. Now we should define what reasonable network management is. Basically, the ISPs sometimes do have to throttle groups of people or regions or any number of things in order to make the network stable for everyone that's using it. So what this is trying to say is that unless your network is being threatened by something, either because it's unlawful or because it's dangerous or because it's going to cause a service disruption for the rest of your customers, you can't throttle those things. You can't manipulate that traffic. They also say that ISPs may not impair or degrade lawful internet traffic on the basis of internet content, application, or service, or use of a non-harmful device subject to reasonable network management, or engage in paid prioritization.
That's the key right there.
That is the key right there. That's the usefulness of a lack of net neutrality for ISPs, is that they can make the money. And this is preventing them from doing that in Washington State. High five to everybody that voted for this.
Now, there is one caveat. The law may be invalidated in emergency situations. Now, we kind of discussed about that a little bit before, of like what emergency situations would like say the police or, you know, the government need to use a larger amount of the bandwidth.
And the thing that we came up with, and it's a really niche situation. But
and this is us guessing.
We're guessing. It doesn't specify this at all, but we're thinking maybe in like a natural disaster scenario, there's a relief page that either people can donate to or people can go to learn where to go in wake of a disaster. And that kind of page would need to be available, highly available, especially for that region. And so in that case, maybe the ISP would throttle down all other traffic and give that one thing priority, or that one destination priority, which I think is completely reasonable. Like, that's not in any way violating some sort of net neutrality fundamental core principle.
And as I was complaining earlier about, it actually has a backbone. It has someone to enforce it, which is the Attorney General. Under the, I'm just going to look at it, so screw you guys. Under the Consumer Protection Act, Chapter 19.86 RCW.
So what that says, chapter blah blah, whatever those numbers were, it's basically defining in broad strokes illegal business practices. It's very difficult to read if you click on the link. Like the law was
Remember the dry part I was talking about earlier?
Yeah, the law in itself is very dry, but this part is way worse in my opinion. But we'll post a link to it if you want to take a look at it specifically. So this isn't all like roses and whatever, something else that's positive. The FCC is going to be trying to fight these laws.
The FCC won't let me be.
And this has actually happened in the past before. The FCC stated in the past that states can't regulate ISPs or broadband internet because it is across state lines. And so one state cannot set regulations for something that crosses state lines.
Because the internet doesn't work like that. I don't know if you know that.
But basically, they've already tried this and it got shut down. Like the FCC already has precedent to know that that's not going to work. And then also there are lawyers coming out and saying, not only did the FCC repeal net neutrality, the FCC severely crippled its own ability to make any sort of action or to take any sort of action regarding broadband. And so their appeals aren't really going to have a lot of, I think, effectiveness. And there's actually an article by Ars Technica that's going to be in the show notes that you can take a look at that I think explains it really well in like a surprisingly intelligent and also not super dry way. I highly recommend checking that article out.
Now, the main issue, I know we didn't talk about this, but the main issue I have with states making these rules and regulations versus the federal government is that some states can care about this issue and some don't. Which means that if you live in a state that doesn't care about this, you're basically like getting screwed, and it's harder for you to get out of that hole versus states that are just like, oh, this is an important thing, we care about this. Like the federal government should be the one that just oversees and has a blanket, and if there's a state that wants to go above and beyond the minimum, sure, great. But there needs to be at least a minimum.
I agree, and I think it might cause a problem in the sense that like this law is probably going to be applied in highly technical states that have, like, for example, California has San Francisco, and like I think the San Francisco crowd is really into net neutrality, if not because of like a publicity thing, because they actually care about it. So California didn't really have a choice, or won't really have a choice. They're gonna have to do something about this eventually. But then like highly agricultural states where like it might not be as big of a thing, maybe they're not gonna care and they're just not gonna do it. And then the population's not gonna care either, because maybe that's not a big thing in Iowa. Which is fine. I'm just worried about how that's going to shift the availability of services, either away from states that are enforcing net neutrality or away from states that aren't enforcing net neutrality. Like, I can't
states like
predict
Iowa that don't have that, like then the network that goes in there.
Do I have to go through an Iowa proxy to use Amazon, like, or to use Netflix? Is that going to be the future? Like, Netflix is just going to not be available in California anymore, not because of an ISP decision, but because of a Netflix decision. That's entirely possible. I don't think we're gonna get there fast, if that happens at all.
True.
But
I'm just saying, I'm like
that's
I'm
the
just
end
trying
of this slope.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just trying to project that, like, what could happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, I think it's just going to slowly be the case where more and more states are opposing the lack of net neutrality, and eventually it just comes back at a federal level. I think that's what's gonna happen.
With a different president.
I told you we were getting political, right?
All right, guys, go down into the comments and let us know, what do you guys think of this law? Do you like this idea? Do you want to see this being taken place in other states? Let us know while you're down there. Also hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you can get notifications for all of our future content. My name is Indigo. You can reach me on Twitter at IndigoQT.
And I'm Krug. You can get me at KrugQT on Twitter. You can also get both of us at _QueueTimes on Twitter. We've been GameGorgon. We'll see you guys tomorrow.